colleagues are the following. Liutauras is from Lithuania, a Fintech advisor. Also, Anna is from Pay, a CEO. And it is joined also by Arnas from Alex, associate. We all together are going just to run through the trends. I will not touch a lot on the videos of the panelists. I think everyone holds the phones and can run through the LinkedIn. So let's just jump into the topic straight away. And I wanted this just to touch the base a little bit on the maturity of the sector. We all know that a few weeks ago, a Lithuanian-based fintech company called Canon Dots just raised 65 million, a series round. It's been one of the biggest in May, and I think this year in fintech industry in Europe. And my following question, is very simple. What does it mean to Baltics, to fintech sector? Is it a maturity signal, or is it just a success story one-off?
Okay, I can start. So I am very happy about Kevin, first of all, because we all observed how they started. It's two guys and with their own capital, both Lithuanians, and they started to build that technology. And that technology became that much popular because they jumped in the market, which was kind of occupied by Trustly or companies like that, but not Lithuanians. And that payment initiation is really the topic where we lack lots of fintechs. So I just had a quick look into the investments into the fintechs all over the world. So it seems to me for the first quarter it was something like 30 billions of US dollars already invested all over the world. So in comparison with that, of course, it's a small drop in the sea. But from the Lithuanian perspective, I think it's a good start. And I'm starting a startup right now, and I think we all who start the startup wish to become a unicorn. I mean,
obviously, this is the biggest goal.
Yeah, this is our biggest dream to do. So we will not stop at that. So we will try to grow. All of us will try to grow into unicorns and attract investments. And I think these venture capitalists, they are willing to invest not only in technology, but into ideas, into the new talents, into something which has potential in the market.
Okay, so overall, I think we kind of starting to feel a more attention to the Baltics and fintech industry from VCs. Is it a true statement, Liutauras? Do you hear more interest from European investors to come here or actually invest in the company?
Thank you, first of all, for having us. I'm not sure actually I can talk about interesting things after we heard about human cyborg. Really fascinating discussion, but now getting back to reality, getting back to fintech. So to answer actually your first question, you asked us, I think what we saw with Kevin and fundraising that they did is definitely a sign of one of the key pillars of sector maturity. So to put things and numbers into perspective, what Kevin raised right now, the whole Lithuanian fintech sector raised last year. So maybe I think this is definitely the case that we were heading to our first Lithuanian fintech unicorn. Now, about your question from international investors and how they view Baltic markets. So we're always in constant communication with VCs around the world, and Baltics is one of the hotspots that are very interesting to look at. It's definitely not a huge market, and I think a significant percentage of the Finnish fintech sector is more revenue focused. I think about 30% of them are revenue funded. So we are in the early stages of where Lithuanian fintechs look towards new horizons and really see the possibilities that the VC world can bring. And I think it's a two-way relationship where the fintechs themselves have to have the appetite to raise money and to scale first and foremost. And then, of course, international attention comes naturally.
Right. As Kevin is looking into open banking or account-to-account processing, what do you see in the market as evolving trends? What is actually interest for the investors right now? Is it the same technology field in fintech like open banking, A2A, or something else evolving from here, and we may see some new technologies in the sector?
We could just follow up from that. So, of course, now let's call it traditional fintech is the main player in terms of the amount of funds raised. But I also look at the numbers. Last year, just the whole crypto sector broke all records of what we did previously. So I think that is immensely interesting. But now looking towards the future, I think there's also some interesting trends in regards to just global financial markets. We monitor tech spaces and VC atmosphere in Silicon Valley, New York, and there's worrying signals that this infinite amount of money might be slowly coming to an end. So I just hope that in Lithuania we're on a more sustainable path, but we saw a crazy party happening in the US, for example.
Oh yeah, the crypto markets also, I think, crashed yesterday a little bit. But it's just a dip that we see from time to time. Okay, maybe I'll just try to speak loud if everyone hears, or I'll just switch. Is it working well? Okay. So you mentioned a very also important topic, sustainability, and obviously there were some talks a few years ago in EU level. We need to bring finance to be green. It seems like a nice buzz and strategy, but what does it mean in reality? Maybe Arnas, you can talk from your perspective as you covering it from the legal side.
Okay, nice to meet you all. Thanks for inviting to this discussion. And you touched a really interesting, let's say, sustainability topic, which was previously covered in fashion tech. And finance sector has a huge eyes from the European Commission how to make it green and more sustainable. And usually we call it with three letters ESG, environment and social governance, as a set of the criteria. And a few years ago there was talks that probably ESG is another buzzword as CSR or other things. However, it seems that we have a new wave of mandatory regulations that is coming from European Commission. It started with strategic documents like European Green Course, digital strategy, and now financial sector mostly from this year, it will be a breakthrough year for ESG, has to apply or to rethink how to use ESG criteria when investing monies to either fintech companies, to new markets, to emerging markets, and to think about the sustainability. And also, it became as a headache to fintechs, because fintechs are providing new products, and sometimes it's quite hard to jump in and follow up all the regulations. So it's a headache, but it's also a possibility, because we have not only you have to apply, but you also can create a new fintech products that are green, and that is one of the ways how to add and solve sustainability issues that the EU and other countries are suffering.
Right, and looking to apply it in practice, I'm always trying to figure it out. As I'm running, the branch office also in this industry, can I call myself a green if I'm, dropping a paper and doing everything digitally? what do you need to have actually to call it a green company or like a green fintech product?
That's quite a good question. I'm not sure if the European Commission knows exactly the answer to this question, but they're starting to do some research. It's always a good thing to make a first step. If you're not using paper and you're trying to use another technologies, it might be better for the environment. But it's very simplified answer. Because if you take blockchain technology, which seems very modern and very trendy, it has huge impact for the environment because it consumes more electricity. So usually for the fintechs, it's very important to look through their activities and to understand where they can how they can save their environment, like to use to certify the activities and acquiring the ISO standard, moving to green buildings that has a lower impact of CO2 emissions. And later, you have to think how to use your finances, which you get from the investors. And if you provide a certain financial product, you have to think firstly, what are direct impact for you as a fintech from the environment, and also how you will use those investments if you provide services for the customers.
I shall add a little bit. I also thought from the fintech perspective, what can I do to jump in this initiative? So perhaps choosing a proper partners, it's also kind of being in that green field, like there are data centers providers which use, for instance, solar energy and uses less of the electricity, I don't know, like Baltic or Telia, etc. Or some of the partners that, for instance, in the automobile park has a lot of electric vehicles, like bicycles or whatever, something like that. Or of course we do not use these paper things in fintechs at all. I think we have a printer but we never use it. So from this smaller perspective we are in that already. But also choosing, let's say, a bank partner or another fintech partner, looking into their activities, in which project they invest, what kind of, if there is a loan portfolio, what kind of loan portfolio there, where it relates to some industries where the pollution is quite high. So everything is together. So we are in a big body all together, and if we choose a proper partner, we are in.
Right, it's like a little bit, joint efforts when we apply the right risk measures. Like as we do right now, in light of a war in Ukraine, we are obliged to follow the sanctions, and obviously some of the partners are not, added to the business as partners. So am I right that, basically the good approach will be to add to that assessment also a part of the sustainability, element to evaluate the partner itself?
Actually, the new thing that you also have financial risks and other risks in your businesses. So ESG is a new risk, and you have to rethink how to minimize it or avoid it, because it may create new problems if you just ignore it. You can lose investments, you can lose your reputation as a fintech, etc. So ESG risks are new ones. So environmental risks are more clear because the environmental aspects are more or less well regulated. But sometimes there are areas where, let's say, governance, which is more an internal thing, and sometimes it's not well regulated. But we already see a few cases that stakeholders have a huge voice in this decision making. We see that sometimes even NGOs are giving such a pressure that companies have to change the pathway. Shell is not a fintech. However, recently NGO came to the court and said, like, okay, Shell created a strategy how they will reduce CO2 emissions in the upcoming 10 or 20 years. And we said, it's not enough. It's a big company, they can do more. And NGO won this claim in the court. So I do believe that it's very, for fintechs, it's very important to not to ignore ESG risks. I know it's quite a broad topic, it's sometimes not quite clear what should I do, but at least starting with the risk management policy, at least to understand what I will do if such a risk will emerge.
Okay, interesting. So it looks to be that in future we need to think a little bit more green, by the way. But let's come back to the other thing that possibly I believe that will stay, which is crypto. I think a few panels already discussed about the crypto. What's happening in the field is obvious. Crypto is getting to the masses. So Goldman Sachs started to support Bitcoin-backed loans. I think this April, the first one was issued by the collateral Bitcoin. We're already seeing same, regulatory recaps across the region in Baltics as well as in Europe. We have an example of Estonian law. Right now, we're speaking about Lithuanian approach to the crypto and this so-called quick fix to happen. How do you see that? Is it important for the sector, and what opportunities or risks that may have to us?
Okay, so first of all, I'd like to mention that, you cannot not recognize the immense potential the whole crypto economy, blockchain economy has for the future. We run analysis, we see how much companies invest in their products, how much people they hire, how they expand globally, and for a country not to try and snap that opportunity would long-term be detrimental. However, in short-term, the quick fix we believe is really important in terms of just protecting countries and our jurisdiction's reputation. Last year in Basel AML index, Lithuania was ranked 9th globally amongst least risky jurisdictions for AML and CTF risk. So it's a huge accomplishment that was made possible with the hard work of all institutions in Lithuania. And to lose that when a quick fix is possible to address some of those key issues is very important. Now, that quick fix that is discussed right now is comprised of a variety of different aspects. So capital requirements, more requirements for personnel you have to hire here in Lithuania, and the reputational requirements. All of that is, I think, nobody denies that that's necessary and important. However, some aspects of it might jump a bit too quickly to adhere 100% to recommendations by international authorities, which may lead in some cases, as for example, the travel rule that is being discussed. If we agree to adhere to it 100%, that might create difficulties for companies to follow the procedures, as there is not actually a unified technological framework across Europe for companies to operate in. So with travel rule, you have to send information across this transaction, but if you send it to a country where travel rule is not accepted, technically you can't do it. So I think with some of those aspects that require technological preparation, we should wait for a unifying regulation such as MiCA, which would actually enforce all countries from a set amount of date to implement those measures. So there's good things and there are things that might need a lot more discussion.
Obviously, I think with opportunities comes some, traits. Anna, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that we shouldn't forget the demand to invest into crypto, or to use the crypto, or even to use the derivatives related to crypto, like CFDs, contracts for difference. And I've seen a research recently that in the last few years, the investments from the private individuals into CFDs related to crypto were the most popular investments. And yes, we can agree that there is a lot of risk in that, but this is the same risk like investing to CFDs related to shares or to bonds or to any other currency. So in this case, we just have to understand how to explain the non-professional user that you are potential under the risk of losing, but if you still wish, so the opportunity should exist if the demand is there.
I probably will add, it seems to be working in this sector with some of the business partners from crypto industry. I myself, seeing a lot of the times, that the education is the key. Obviously, the users that are coming to the sector, and obviously, if it is a newcomer, it's everything new, and sometimes it's hard to catch the technology. But if we learn the user, I think the difference is becoming very little between the traditional finances and crypto finances. When we look at the regulation right now, I'm looking at very close by, regulation to what we apply for some of the EMI companies. So, can you imagine a world that, the fintech may start to work as crypto? Because the regulations will be very, very similar. Do you believe that it is possible for the fintech to become crypto or add crypto products?
Actually, it's a good question, but I'm not sure if it's possible to give a clear perspective, at least from a regulator side now, and from academic perspective, we do not see any examples, let's say. At least I don't know any of them, but as a future, like a food for thought, it's quite an interesting one, and probably it needs to be developed. Maybe you can add more.
Yeah, so I love the saying that fintech eats legacy finance and crypto eats fintech. So it's a sort of a never-ending train of innovation where new technologies partly or fully displace what came before. But I think as they eat them, they take something that they had before. So I think we're seeing the convergence right now. So large fintechs add crypto products to their portfolio. We see Revolut having the possibility of a closed loop crypto asset brokerage. We see large financial players integrate those services in a whole variety of ways. We see traditional finance firms actually just acquiring crypto firms to just integrate their products in their portfolio. So it's a very natural conversion that I will think continue into the future. Naturally, that also means that the regulatory environment will clarify.
Right. And what do you think do we need for crypto to become a second success story for Lithuania?
So just naturally, I think we should be proactive in the development and preparation for a process for MiCA. So we should not stand by and watch somebody else discuss it. So both our government institutions as well as private companies should be continuously submitting their opinions to the bodies that are making that regulation. And of course, when those discussions are finished, we should be one of the first to implement it on a national level, and then also make possibilities for companies to efficiently get licensed here and then access the European markets. So we should completely adhere to the regulation, but be effective with it, transparent with it, and welcoming with it.
And adding to that about digital currencies, we shouldn't forget the CBDC, the digital currency as well. And it was a big move from the Bank of Lithuania side with this creation of CBDC as a digital central bank digital currency. And also it made Lithuania known for that. and hopefully this project will go live, and this the I would say understanding of the digital currency, not only the crypto, which is highly terrible, but overall this digital currency has a lot of dimensions.
Okay, yeah, that's a very good point. We were leading with the regulatory framework. I think our regulators are open for the discussion. Now, I think the market just needs to be active, to suggest and open this discussion. And last, before I guess getting to the lunch break, because I guess everyone is very hungry, to have a bite. Let's dream a little bit and think further on. Who will be the next Kevin or Wise in Baltics? If we can't name the company, maybe we can think about the field in which this company will strive. So let's make maybe a round of guesses to wrap it up.
Okay, so probably I will add one thing to your previous question, is that usually for either fintech or cryptocurrencies, it's very important to have from a regulatory side to have an innovative approach from a government perspective, for governmental institutions. So that always helps, and it's very good when regulations are more or less predictive, and it's not constantly changing, so that you should not adapt every day. And the fields, I will not predict, but I wish that it would be a field related to, let's say, reduction of CO2 emissions, or any of the sustainable products. And let's wish to have first really green tech thing. It would be quite a nice breakthrough in this area.
Yes, I have the potentiality, or I'm very optimistic about many sectors, like laser sector in Lithuania, which is very, very well developing, all the biological fintechs, and for sure, I wish my startup to become a unicorn. I want that very much. I also wish your fintech become a unicorn. So I would like, all of us to raise more and more unicorns here in Lithuania. And I believe in fintech, in traditional that fintech that we have already established, that could appear more and more unicorns.
Okay, and Liutauras, your final guess?
Yeah, so I'm a huge believer in crowdfunding. I think the new legislation really changed the game, and we're currently really in the infancy stages of the whole crowdfunding market. Basically, just right now we see it converging. So I think a company or people that create a really pan-European unified platform where people can pitch their startups and then distribute equity really will be the winning idea, and will contribute very positively to the shortage of financing for some companies in Europe, and will basically democratize access to finance for a lot of people.
All right, so I think we can wrap it up. Green finance, payments, and I guess banking, as well as the wealth tech seems to be three key anchors. I'll add the blockchain just to wrap it up what we discussed. And thanks for listening, and I guess I'll pass the mic to Zoltan. Thanks for inviting us.